You do have friends here, and you have family here too, right? Your parents are in the audience.
Let's not point them out and embarrass them at this point.
Okay. So you guys did your token sale back in June, July period, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
and you raised 25 million, is that correct? Okay, so after the project finished, what happened? It's all done, right? Everything's finished now. What stage are you at?
So we're full on into implementation, right? So as soon as the token sale concluded, even before the token sale concluded, we were working on the technology side of things. Over the past 2-3 months, we've also been ramping up on staffing. I think we'll start talking about what technology, the underlying technology it is, and it's a very new thing no one's ever implemented before, right? So there's a lot of research, there's a lot of product R&D, and then there's also the underlying focus on building out the infrastructure that's core to enabling all
right,
of
so
things.
I think most people in the audience, we had a good show of hands, people who know what you guys are doing, but perhaps you could explain to anyone here who's unsure of your project. What are you guys up to?
Yeah. So OmiseGO is building an infrastructure that allows anyone to conduct payments on a mobile phone, right? It started off in 2015, where our holding company is called Omise Payment. It's a payment gateway company, and the mission there was online payments for everyone. The problem is when you're a payment gateway processor, you're only touching the people who are using credit cards or have bank accounts. So we asked ourselves, how do we actually build a new technology that allows freedom of financial services to everyone? So in 2015, we started a blockchain lab within Omise, and that was focusing on looking at different technologies, including blockchain. And we immediately saw that scalability was a big issue. So at that point, the 3 companies, I think, that were involved in blockchain were us, Wangxin Group, and IBM.
In Ethereum.
In Ethereum, yep. So since 2015 onwards, we've invested in scalability research. And earlier this year, that was when we registered OmiseGO and decided we're building this network that also has a wallet SDK to allow. So
it's been a 2-year project then. So because I think that ICOs have obviously been a thing that hasn't really blown up until this year, right? But Omise had been planning this for 2 years, you say, right?
The project, yes. The ICO since last year, but uncertain because the project direction still needed to be developed fully.
So in terms of the token sale, so let's talk about the token sale because the reason I asked if people have made money from OmiseGO is that your coin has done pretty good, right? So I think you're up 40x or something like that, right? What's the? You guys don't know.
You can do the math.
I think it's appreciated like pretty good compared to others, right? So perhaps we could talk about how you guys did your token sale, how you structured that.
Well, regarding token performance, it's not something that OmiseGO has anything to do with. We haven't spent anything on marketing. No affiliate, no paid news, no promotion. And also we make sure to maintain a professional distance from market type activity because really the role of the project is not to get involved in that. The role of the project is to use the token sale to fund something. And what happens with a decentralized token is for the token holders to decide how they want to trade or buy and sell or barter it with each other. But we hope that the majority of people who hold the tokens will participate in what the token is actually for, which is staking in our slasher style, like Ethereum style economically reasoned proof-of-stake network.
Okay, so on that point, on the network point, whereabouts are you at the moment? Because obviously the project that you have is huge, right? I mean, you want to build a payment network that anybody in the world can use, whether it's a consumer sending money peer-to-peer or buying from a retailer or any other kinds of transactions, right? So whereabouts are you now at this point in terms of the project?
So our focus has always been, we know that this is an ambitious goal, and at the same time coming from a venture-backed company, right, as our holding company, we put a lot of emphasis in getting the product out first, and then we'll iterate and improve on it. So the milestone, I think we released it last month, the updated milestone, and we're aiming to get the wallet SDK MVP version out over the next month or so. We do have a conglomerate partner that will essentially POC this wallet SDK, and so
who's that partner?
I can't tell
you. Know I'm going to ask you that question.
Yeah, I know. They'll announce it.
It's a big company that we're not going to name.
Yeah, it is. So they are currently integrating that with their application, and so the SDK libraries, along with the documentation, will be released alongside of their
Okay.
application.
So the first step is
Yes.
taking place now.
Yep.
Potentially before the end of the year, perhaps.
Depending
Maybe.
on how they integrate
Okay.
and how fast they do it.
But what about after that? Like, what's at what point are we gonna be at a point where somebody in the audience can send OMG to you here on stage because you've done a good answer to my question, or when can we see peer-to-peer transactions?
So, okay, anyone can send OMG to anyone else.
Okay,
already.
sorry, but on the network, when's your network going to be up and running?
So there's two main phases to that, which is the Rev 1 and the, I guess, final form, Plasma. Currently working on both simultaneously. Plasma is a new scaling solution. It's, I guess the easiest way to say is it's like Lightning Network for a smart contract platform, so it's scaling smart contracts. Plasma, which will allow the OMG network to have a year ago, it would have been unthinkable, like millions or possibly billions of transactions per second, needs to be specified and reasoned about and built first. And so we're participating in this effort because the OMG network was written specifically for Plasma before Plasma was released. The Rev 1, on the other hand, should come much sooner, and we're looking at early next year.
Okay. And in terms of actually building out these products that you guys are doing, how do you find the talent to hire for these projects? I mean, you're building something that doesn't actually exist, right?
Yeah. So I think the team composition and the way we've structured them is quite interesting. So we have a blockchain team that focuses on building out this infrastructure, right? A team of engineers. Then we have the wallet team, who essentially are the people that are responsible with the customer touch point. So how to actually get applications to customers, looking at the security from the user point of view, things like that. And then we have this third team that we call a rogue team.
The rogue team.
The rogue team, yeah. We couldn't come up with a better name. So the idea is the OmiseGO network is a public network. And so as a company, we have to get creative in terms of what products do we then build on top of, right? The OmiseGO decentralized exchange will change the way that commerce operates today. We have some ideas of what we want to test out, but you don't really know until that thing is up and people are on and playing with it and building different applications on it. So the Rogue team is essentially a product R&D team, and it's made up of people from different backgrounds. So people with exchange backgrounds, people with payment backgrounds, people who are doing loyalty points, and so we bring them all together and say, okay, test this out, see what happens.
But I mean, how do you actually find these people? Do you use the network, or
So I mean, the thing to understand is that the OmiseGO project has the mandate to build what is essentially two different modules. One is the Omise business module, which is how OmiseGO will make infrastructure that payments, that digital wallet providers, that other businesses are going to be able to use to plug into the second module, which is the OMG network. The first module, of course, Omise will use it themselves too. But the OMG network is a 100% public network. This is a public, 100% permissionless, cross-chain compatible, currency agnostic, massively scalable, decentralized exchange built into the consensus layer of a proof-of-stake network that operates as a plasma chain rooted in the Ethereum mainnet. Essentially, we're very core community members in Ethereum. We're building something that the entire Ethereum ecosystem is going to be able to use. The entire crypto space will be able to use this. So obviously, people are quite interested and excited, and so we have a lot of people that want to reach out and participate.
So you have inbound. I mean, how many people are in touch with you on a daily basis, asking for a job?
Quite a lot, and some people are very persistent.
How many is that? More than 10?
Yes.
More than 100?
No.
Okay. And there are people who
the hardest part of hiring, I think, is making sure that it's a good fit.
Right. How do you do that?
Spend a lot of time with them. And we talk to, I mean, I think most of our hires have actually been either referrals or people who start contributing either through Slack discussion or through various channels. So we spend quite a bit of time screening them.
And they're all based here in Bangkok, or you have overseas as well?
They're all over. So we have teams in Europe. We're now staffing up in the US, all around Asia.
So if there's anybody in the...
This keeps blinking. Am I speaking
up.
loud enough? Do I need to speak louder? The audience can hear me?
Yeah. I think you could be a bit louder if it's okay. So if there's anybody in the audience who wants to work with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you? Apart from off the stage, how should they? I mean, in general, how do you get into crypto projects? What's the answer? Like, how do you?
You sit outside the gate until.
Literally?
No, please don't do that.
That's what you did, right?
No. I think sending a cold email. A cold DM on one of the communication platforms is fine. Send in your GitHub. If you have a referral, this is of course much better. But this is a very dynamic space. I mean, blockchain is much more established than it was even just a few years ago. But what we're doing is still kind of on the cutting edge, and so it remains experimental. And so. Good fits are hard to find, but that just means that we are open to anybody.
Okay, and in terms of how many people do you have on OMG at this point?
So we have about
do you know Vansa?
16 right now.
16, and you're looking to expand that considerably?
If we find the right fit.
If you find the right people, there's an audience full of people here, I'm sure there's
But I should mention that our blockchain team is actually really good in terms of knowledge transfer as well. We have a couple people that join with some blockchain experience, but then we're able to learn from the senior developers and kind of progress. So it's by no means, it's such a new project that actually if you bring in different experiences, it's also helpful.
Okay, and I'm also curious because obviously you're building a payments network, a payments platform that you want other people to come onto. At this point, are you doing any work with others apart from the big corporates who we can't, really talk about? But are you also working with other startups and other smaller companies?
So that's another thing where there's a bit of a bottleneck because there's only so much partnership and biz dev hours to go, but there's a lot of inbound. And so we would like to respectfully consider every project that reaches out, every company, every corporate, but maybe it takes a little time to get back to people. So
it sounds like you get emails from lots of different people, right, on a daily basis.
We're building something that will be useful for everyone in the whole world. People who can see that, who've read the white paper and know what building this tech out successfully implies, and people who understand what it can mean for them. Many people get excited and want to participate or collaborate.
Okay.
We do have informal collaborations with other projects as well, because as Thomas mentioned, we're building an infrastructure, right? And that requires a lot of pieces. So, and people can leverage it. So there are projects that we are communicating with and exchanging essentially knowledge with at the development level as well.
Okay, that's interesting. I think probably your ICO is seen as one of the more successful ones, because I know it's a point that you don't always, I like to talk about, but the market cap of the currency obviously went up considerably, and it passed 1 billion US dollars at one point. I think now it's gone down a bit, but it's gone up a lot, right? What's been the biggest challenge that you've had? Because obviously an ICO is not the end game, right? That's the thing that sparks the project in the first place. So what's been the biggest challenge to go from a white paper and raising an ICO to actually building out a platform?
Which biggest challenge?
just pick one, or pick two if you want.
Hiring. Hiring is difficult because on one hand, it's good to have extra help. But on the other hand, if you get the wrong extra help, then it's more cost than benefit. So it takes a lot of time to grow the team, and some of the team has grown very, very organically. And this is good, and we have a lot of very prominent and talented people in the Ethereum space supporting with whatever time that they volunteer to spare. And of course, also that's very good for referrals. But at the end of the day, it's the team that is working full-time, full steam, on actually implementing, on specifying, reasoning, and designing and implementing that. I think these are the people that have to make the decision, and you can't make the decision to hire too quickly in many cases. So it consumes a lot of time. Also, another one, since you said pick one, I'll give you two. Okay. Always deliver more than you promise. I think the difficulty in keeping up with community queries has also been, it has been a challenge, because with so many literal stakeholders, right, this is a proof of stake network, all these token holders, the just explosive growth of our social media, even though there's, again, no effort to promote it. Like just a few days ago, I think Reddit, subreddit, hit 20,000 subscribers, and questions are constantly coming, and sorting between the noise and the questions which we think legitimately merit direct response. And then Twitter is now like over 100K. I mean, I think it was just last year that Vitalik had 100K. The space is growing tremendously, and the amount of influx of people into blockchain in general, and then Ethereum specifically, but then OMG in particular, the knowledge transfer to keep the public conversations moving in directions which are accurate and productive. This actually, it takes a lot of effort, and more people, I think, recently were hired from the early community. So that's another way to answer the question about who can you hire.
On
it's
Reddit,
people
right?
who are already in the community.
So go to Reddit and post pictures of John on the moon with cars, and you're going to get hired.
No, I think some projects may want to hire that type of thing, but I think that it's funny, and I really respect the efforts of people to engage with the talents that they have. and express the way that the project maybe makes them feel. You know, it's their sentiments. But the people that typically we have thought from the community, these are hires, potential hires, are people that have been informal and voluntary moderators who, not, you know, banhammer type moderator, but people who try to share their knowledge and raise awareness about what the project is doing and nip misunderstandings in the bud and basically just shape the conversation in a way that is in conformity with the reality of the thing we're doing.
Okay. I mean, I was just kidding about the artwork, but it'd be pretty cool if you did hire those guys, because they spend so much time building
those guys probably do better work if they're doing it on their own and
I'm impressed anyway, so you guys must be, right? Okay. I think we were going to do some Q&A from the audience. So if anyone has any questions they want to ask, can you raise your hand, please?
Someone over there, John. He raised his hand.
Is there a microphone? Do we have the mic? Yes. Okay.
Thank you. My question is for the second module of your business, of the network. So if the platform goes live, will I be able to send OMG tokens as well as fiat currency? Or if it's only OMG tokens, will it be reserved to...
So OMG, interesting point. It's a little bit different from how you might think of cryptocurrency, right? Because, I mean, this is a crypto economic construction, so the token itself is not meant to be a currency. You might have to be a little bit familiar with the idea of proof of stake, but it's an alternative to the Nakamoto consensus proof of work, which is popularly known as mining, where a validator invests money into an expensive piece of hardware and then pays an electricity company to run that hardware and then has the opportunity to cover that cost or make a profit by mining Bitcoin or Ether or any other POW network. And in addition to the block reward, there are the transaction fees of the transactions that the validator that ends up, you know, winning the block gets to put in it, you know, gets to organize into the block. Now, the OMG network is a different version of this. It uses proof of stake, which is a different kind of way, different way of getting to consensus about what is actually happening on the blockchain and what should happen at each round, each block. And there is no block reward in this, so it's purely the transaction fees that are being received. So the way that the OMG token fits into this is that it is what is used as the investment or as the security deposit in this case, rather than buying like a miner, you know, a GPU or an ASIC of some sort, and plugging it into the electric grid. What you are doing is you are buying this software that you can use as a security deposit in a slasher-style proof-of-stake construction. So what happens is if you, or the node that your deposit is connected to misbehaves, it goes Byzantine, is malicious, you know, pick one. Basically, you will get your deposit slashed. You will lose your money. It would be the equivalent to you wasting all that electricity, and you don't get any reward for it. So this is a necessary thing. In order to ensure the economic security of the network, you need to have this token. And this token needs to be widely distributed as well. So in theory, you could send OMG token over the network, but in practice, you might, you know, be more likely to send other things, such as other network-backed currencies, decentralized currencies, Bitcoin, Ether, anything else that gets plugged in, Dogecoin, hopefully.
Fiat-backed tokens?
As for fiat-backed tokens, they will be available if and when fiat issuers issue them on the OMG network or the Ethereum network, and or actually any other network that has scripting in it. So that is also actually part of the plan at OmiseGO, is to make sure that fiat tokens get on as soon as possible, because we know that the majority of people want to use these.
Just to clarify,
to add quickly to that, and we've spent, in terms of the business development and partnership side, we've spent quite a bit of our effort looking for these partners who will be able to issue fiat-backed tokens in kind of our priority markets as well as other markets.
And they're the usual suspects of the kinds of people that can, in societies such as ours, issue these things. Some of them that are interested are actually quite surprising. But sorry, your clarification.
Yeah, so as an OMG holder, from proof of stake, I would benefit through dividends. Is that what you're saying? Like just
it's not a dividend. I mean, have you ever participated in mining? Have you ever run a miner?
Yeah, I'm mining and proof of stake coins. But
okay.
So what is the value of holding OMG tokens besides speculation? That's what I'm trying to get at.
So the value is that the transaction fees that are paid when the network is used, and the reason that we validate blocks is to allow these transactions, which in the case of OMG network also includes trades, because there's a decentralized exchange built into the consensus. Those transaction fees, those trade fees, if you will, 100% of them are paid to the stakers.
Okay, let's go to the next question.
By the network, by the way. This is a totally public network. There is no intermediary, whether it is a company or a nation state or anything else, including OmiseGO. It's a very important point.
Well, no, sure, but you guys can talk about it off stage. Let's get the
but it's an important point for everybody else to understand as well.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much for your presentation. And I have two questions. The first one is about the proof of stake and the IOTA Tangle algorithm. How will you compare? In my personal opinion, I think Tangle might be better than the proof of stake. That's my first question. And the second question is about the GMO. The Japanese people will make a 7-nanometer ASIC chip. How will it change the market of the Bitcoin? That's my two questions. Okay.
So first question. I won't go so much into it because it's not too directly relevant, but we don't feel that IOTA is too relevant to what we're doing, and there are extremely legitimate questions about how decentralized such a system either is or can even possibly be. So that's the most I will say on this topic. It is very important that the OMG network as a plasma chain be rooted into a root chain which is truly decentralized and secure, because a tremendous amount of responsibility, I think. We have this responsibility if we're really going to build this thing that potentially the whole world could end up using. The second question is concerning
about the ASIC chip.
The ASIC chip.
Yeah, the 7-nanometer
GPU
ASIC chip. Yeah, no, ASIC chip.
Yeah, but what is the ASIC for?
Because the Chinese people have about 35 nanosecond the Antminer chip already, but if Japanese people make 7-nanometer ASIC chip, I think this will change the whole market of the Bitcoin, because I believe Chinese people have about 80% of the hash power right now, but that can be changed, right?
It's a geopolitical issue. I think it's very interesting, and I think that free market being what it is, the market kind of decides where, well, the market and also the regulatory market. The market for regulation decides where mining can happen, where the hash power will accrue. Moving to proof of stake, though, kind of gets away from this issue. And I think it's a good idea to get away from this issue.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next question in the middle, please.
Hello, guys. My question is about technology. If I understand correct, Omise is just a sidechain of Ethereum. Is that true? Okay,
no,
so please explain what it is.
The word sidechain has a lot of history. Won't go too much into it, but essentially sidechains, as they have been known since 2013, I don't remember exactly about that, rely on the main chain for 100% of trust, whereas the proof of stake construction, it's an optional construction. Plasma can be run as a proof of authority network as well, but a proof of stake plasma chain is an independent chain that does not 100% need to be routed to a mainnet, but is a good idea, because what you can then do is you can use the economic security of a larger network to secure it. And then you can use funds which are bonded to the larger network as well for security. And you can say that this is like a trustless sidechain or a decentralized sidechain, or like I don't know, a standalone sidechain. But I think that it would probably just be better to avoid the term sidechain. Also because there are kind of like ownership concerns with it. I think that plasma chain should be something that is understood in its own right, and it will come to be understood as such over time. Just as today, if you say, Lightning Network, people automatically understand that you're referring to, state channels for the use of payment.
Okay, so you will use Plasma to communicate with Ethereum. What about another blockchains like Bitcoin? You mentioned decentralized exchange.
It's
you need to communicate with others as well.
Section 5 of the OMG white paper, 5.3.
Like the Bible.
Well, I've actually been asked this question quite a lot, so I could be wrong about the section.
We
but
sleep with it.
It's used for platforms that, like Ethereum, are smart contract capable. Then you basically write contracts. For networks which are not and have much more simple scripting, then there's a clearinghouse construction that is described in the white paper, which also uses like a bonded, version. You just lock funds up on that chain.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, more questions? At the front, we've got a few people at the front.
Sawadee-ka, thank you. And it's really good presentation. It's really nice to see a project that has got their ICO completed successfully, and also part of it also, got the Thai people involved as well. So I guess my question is going to be something really non-technical. It's more so like, can you give us an example of real life, of real world businesses that have implemented the OmiseGO payment system currently in either Thailand or outside Thailand? And also going forward, are there going to be any other real world businesses that will be adopting this payment system? That if you can name them, that would be great.
Yeah, so we can't really name who.
I've asked this question so many times. Never given an answer. Maybe you can answer now. Someone else has asked.
Well, I mean, so the OmiseGO payment system is not up and running yet. Yep. This is the first thing. There are prospective. There are people that have already committed to use it. We can't name those.
Like we heard some news regarding like McDonald's in Thailand.
This is from Omise Payments.
Yeah.
Right? So one thing to understand is that the OmiseGO payment system essentially will also serve as a rails for payment gateways, payment processors, including but not limited to Omise Payments. So basically any payment processor that wants to plug in all their existing merchants will be able to accept payments in fiat and crypto, tweak the dials as the gateway pleases across the OmiseGO network for incredibly low cost. And the merchants, the end users, the people that receive the funds, it is a completely seamless and invisible transition process. They don't have to do anything.
And it's actually, so we deal on a B2B basis. So the network itself, there's a wallet SDK, which if you don't have a wallet, essentially you can go to this library, compile, and then API it into your app. If you're an existing wallet, there's also a way that you can plug in directly to the network, so you don't need to do
And actually, you nobody needs to ask OmiseGO for permission to do this. This is a completely public network. Everything is going to be open source and freely available. It's a permissionless blockchain. You don't have to ask permission to use Bitcoin. You don't have to ask permission to use Ethereum. You won't have to ask permission to use the OMG network. Payment processors, digital wallet providers, welcome to contact for technical support and help and partnership if that's desirable. Otherwise, feel free to just use it. We've built this with community money, and we've built it for everyone.
That's perfect answer. Thank you.
One final question. Quick question. Final.
Hello.
Thank you. How is Plasma different from Raiden? I heard Raiden is another Lightning equivalent of Ethereum.
Has to be a short answer.
So yeah, very short answer. Raiden is basically Lightning that is written in one particular way for Ethereum. Interesting, actually Omise funded the development of Raiden last year up to POC level. And so we're also quite close with the team. We have very friendly relations. But Plasma is completely different. Plasma is, Lightning or Raiden is scaling for payments, for simple transactions. Plasma is scaling for smart contracts. And Lightning or Raiden uses off-chain constructions to send the payments, whereas Plasma uses on-chain, just not on root chain, so different chain, actually many chains, potentially thousands of chains, construction for doing transactions, including, in our use case, decentralized exchange. And then the off-chain construction is the fraud proof, is just checking that the network actually works. So you can, yeah, it's different.
Maybe a way to loop that around is, with blockchain, there's a scalability issue that everyone's trying to solve right now, right? So we don't think that it's going to be one solution for all the use cases. Blockchain provides a lot of opportunities to develop different applications on it. The different use cases are going to need different type of solutions or the different type of construct. So I think actually Plasma and Raiden can leverage off of each other in some aspects as well.
Okay, we're out of time, but thank you so much, guys.